Hey y'all, in today's video, I am going to be sharing some of my top favorite dinner recipes that I tried out in 2023. I chose the first 5 that came to my mind first, and I've just really been looking forward to putting this video together. I want to make it a tradition at the end of each year for as long as I'm on YouTube to make a top favorites video to really showcase the recipes that wowed me over the year. I hope you all enjoy. First up is this chicken parmesan recipe. It is the best one that I have found. It was actually the first dinner that I made to kick off the new year, and it has just been in the back of my mind ever since. We absolutely love it. It's very simple to make, very simple ingredients, so I just want to show you how easy it is to make a really good chicken parmesan. So I start off with 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts. That's the perfect amount for my family. Mine always run on the bigger side, so I do like to slice them in half to make 4 thinner pieces, and I like to take the extra step to pound those out to be even thinner. I always want them to be, uniform in size. They cook up better that way, and they just look better. You never want like a half your chicken to be really thick and the other half to be really thin. I just don't really care for that. So I'm just going in and seasoning both sides with some simple salt and black pepper. You can add more seasonings if you want to, but I don't think it's necessary for this recipe. So now I'm going to get my breading station, as I call it, ready. So in the first bowl, I'm adding a half a cup of all-purpose flour, and I'm seasoning it with some salt and pepper and getting that combined in real good. In the second bowl, I'm going to crack in 2 eggs, and then with a fork, I'm just going to whisk that together really good. This is what's going to help your breading stick to your chicken. So the eggs are important in this recipe. In the third and final bowl, I'm going to grab my Italian style breadcrumbs, and I'm going to use a half a cup of them. I also like to do a half a cup of some freshly shredded Parmesan cheese. You can use the bottled stuff, but I just think it's a lot better with the freshly shredded kind. And I'm just getting those 2 things mixed together good. And now I can go ahead and start breading the chicken. So one by one, I'm going to start by rolling the chicken around in that seasoned flour. And then I'm going to roll it around in the eggs and just let the excess drip off. And then lastly, I'm just going to roll it around in the Italian breadcrumbs and the Parmesan cheese. Once I get them breaded, I like to just place them back on that same cutting board that I work on from the beginning. It's always a little bit messy to bread chicken, but it's easy and it goes pretty quick. So moving on to the next step, I'm going to grab a large skillet and I'm going to heat up 2 big spoonfuls of olive oil on about a medium-high heat, and once it's nice and hot, I'm going to start cooking up my chicken. I like to do 2 pieces at a time. I don't want to overcrowd the pan. I want it to create this really nice golden crust, as you can see, and I am trying to cook these all the way through. So I do about 3 to 4 minutes per side since these are thinner. So now I'm doing the second batch. You always want to add a little bit more oil since the first batch kind of soaks it up, and as you can see, that is just perfect. So now you're going to want to grab a jar of your favorite pasta sauce. This is the last one that I had in my pantry, just going in with some Prego, and you want to do a really nice thick layer in the bottom of a 9x13 casserole dish. I did go in and remove those big chunks of tomatoes. If you noticed, we just don't really care for that, but I'm just arranging the chicken in this dish so that none of it is overlapping. I used almost that whole jar of sauce in the bottom, and I just really like the way it kind of finishes off the chicken. I swear it just like changes the texture of it, and I feel like it's what makes it such a good chicken parmesan. So I'm just taking the rest of that jar and I'm just spooning some over top of each piece of chicken. I did shred up some mozzarella cheese, and I'm just adding a good layer over the top, and I pop that in the oven at 425 degrees for 15 minutes, and then when it comes out, I just top it with some dried parsley. I think that that is just so beautiful, and in my honest opinion, I think that this is just as good as any restaurant chicken parmesan. It is just so delicious. I typically serve this with some angel hair pasta, and I like to spoon plenty of the sauce from the pan over it, but this time I decided to swap that out with this pasta-roni in the Parmesan cheese flavor. And I don't know if I've bought this before. If I have, it has been many years, but This was seriously so good, and I will definitely be stocking up on those the next time that I go to the grocery store. It paired perfectly with it, and I just think it's a really good little easy side dish. I also served it with a Caesar salad. I almost always have the ingredients on hand to make this, and it's just one of those recipes that will always be one of our very favorites. Up next are these little mini garlic Parmesan chicken meatloaves. These are packed full of garlic and Parmesan cheese, which is two of my favorite things. So you're going to need 2 pounds of ground chicken. This recipe is what made me try ground chicken for the first time, and I discovered how much I love it. I need to start doing more recipes with that. I seasoned it with some onion powder, salt, and pepper. The original recipe does call for diced onions to be added, but I replaced it with the powder. I ran about 6 big cloves of garlic through my garlic press, threw that on in there, as well as about 3/4 of a cup of Italian breadcrumbs, 1 egg, and lots of dried parsley. You'll also need about 3 ounces of some shredded Parmesan cheese. That's it for the meatloaf ingredients itself. So I'm just going to go in and fold everything together really well without over mixing it. I do have my oven preheated to about 375 degrees, by the way. And then I'm just going to grab my muffin tin. I did spray it with some nonstick cooking spray. And I'm just going in with my cookie scoop and just filling these to the top. So that was a little bit too thick for my cookie scoop. It actually messed it up. I hope that I can fix it. But I just started going in with a big spoonful to finish that off. And now I'm just going to take my fingertips and I'm just going to press that down, pack it in there, and just, you want the tops to be flat. So I'm going to pop that in that 375-degree oven for about 25 minutes. And meanwhile, I'm going to get started on the really delicious sauce that goes over top of these. So to a large saucepan, I'm heating up about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I have crushed up about 3 cloves of garlic. And I'm just sauteing the garlic in the olive oil until it is nice and fragrant. It takes about a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of just some plain all-purpose flour. I'm continuously whisking that for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to start adding in some heavy cream. Again, all while stirring. So I'm going to add in about 1.5 cups of heavy cream. I'm sorry for any background noise throughout this video. The kids are home from Christmas break. The dog is wild right now, so hopefully y'all can bear with me. But you don't want that heavy cream mixture to come up to a boil, but once you can see that it's nice and hot and steamy, you can add in 3 ounces of shredded Parmesan cheese. So yes, this recipe in total almost calls for a whole block of Parmesan cheese. I just seasoned it to taste with some salt. I added in some dried parsley and I took it off the heat. So now I can serve it up. I like to do 2 of these at a time. They are very filling. I feel like they're a little bit bigger in person than what the camera shows, but you definitely want to pour plenty of that sauce over the top. I like to add some extra parsley over the top. And this night I served it with some fried potatoes and ketchup and just some green beans. But this recipe just, it blows my mind every time. It's just so good. It's packed full of flavor. It is nice and juicy. The sauce is what really brings it over the top, and it's just something different from our normal dinners. Up next are these creamy, cheesy white chicken enchiladas. I feel like this is a really popular recipe that I'm sure many of you have made. I've made some good white chicken enchiladas in the past, but I did come across this particular recipe this year, and it's our favorite so far. So you need about 3 cups of shredded chicken. I did a rotisserie chicken this time. You'll add 1/2 block of some room temperature cream cheese to that, as well as some garlic powder. I did shred up an 8-ounce block of pepper jack cheese, and I've added about 1 cup of that into the cream cheese and chicken mixture. I like to take a spatula to really fold everything together. You basically want your cream cheese coating all of the chicken. It's going to make it really easy to stuff later. So I'm going to grab my 9x13 casserole dish, spray it with some cooking spray. These are our favorite tortillas, the Tortilla Land ones. You can get them in most grocery stores in the refrigerated section. You do have to cook them first, but it's just very little time in a skillet. So obviously use whatever tortillas you want to, but I do feel like these just make it better. So I'm just going to take that chicken mixture and just add a good amount of it to the middle and just tightly roll these up. I find it easiest to just go in with my hands. They're clean, so That's just what I do. I place those seam side down in my dish, and now I'm going to get started on the best part. So to my medium saucepan, I'm melting down about 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm adding in a tablespoon of taco seasoning and 3 tablespoons of some all-purpose flour. I'm going to mix that together real good for just a couple of minutes. This is the roux. This is what's going to help thicken up the sauce a little bit later on. So to that, I'm going to add a can of chicken broth, which is equal to 2 cups. And I'm just going to whisk it until it's smooth, and I'm going to let that heat through for a few minutes, and then I'm going to add in about a half a cup of that shredded pepper jack cheese. You can also use Monterey cheese if you don't want to use the pepper jack, and I'm just going to stir until the cheese is melted. And then I'm going to add in a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, juice and all. And you'll need about 3/4 of a cup of sour cream. The sour cream makes the sauce so good. And this is another one of those sauces that you don't want to bring up to a boil. You're basically just wanting everything to mix well together and just heat through. So that's all there is to that sauce. It is so good. So I'm just going to pour that all over top of the chicken enchiladas, and then I'm going to take the remainder of that cheese and just evenly sprinkle it all over the top. I never feel like it's enough, so I like to add a little bit of extra shredded cheese. So I just grabbed the first bag that was open in my fridge, and that's going to go in the oven at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes, and then I like to flip the broiler on to kind of brown the top of the cheese. I know it looks a little sloppy and like nothing that special, but we just love it, and I would recommend it to anyone. We like to typically serve it with Mexican rice. I can leave the recipe that I use in the description box. I've used the same one for several years now. Goes so good with it, and it's just a meal that we always enjoy, and it makes a lot for little money. Up next are these little mini barbecue bacon cheddar meatloaves. These are just downright incredible, and if you have someone in your family that doesn't care for meatloaf, I can almost guarantee that they will like this one. So to a mixing bowl, I'm adding in 2 pounds of some ground beef. I'm going to season it really well with some Lawry seasoned salt, onion, and garlic powder. You're going to need a half a bottle of some chili sauce. This is my first time buying the Heinz one, and it is very good. I also fried up some bacon earlier that day. I believe this was like 6 slices, and I just crumbled it up, threw it on in there. You'll also need about 1.5 cups of some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. I didn't have quite enough, so I just substituted it with some bagged shredded cheese. You'll also need a half a cup of some panko breadcrumbs, and then 1 egg. I'm just quickly beating that before I add it on in. And then I'm going to grab my yellow mustard. I'm going to add in about a heaping tablespoon of it, and then I'm also going to do 2 tablespoons of some Worcestershire sauce. And per usual, the best way to get a job done is to just go in with your bare hands. So now I can start forming these into little meatloaves. So I just have a parchment lined cookie sheet, and I'm going to do 8 individual meatloaves. I'm just scooping out a big handful, and then I will go back around and shape them the way that I want them. I'm also going to take my thumb and create a little divot in the middle. I'm pretty sure the reasoning for that is to kind of help prevent it from like bubbling up too much and forming like a meatball. I don't know how much that really helps, but I do it anyways. You'll want to grab your favorite barbecue sauce. I love anything by Sweet Baby Ray's. This is the hickory brown sugar, and I'm going to drizzle each meatloaf with plenty of that, and then I'm going to go around with my little silicone brush, and I'm just going to spread that barbecue sauce all around until they are all nice and perfectly coated. I got my oven preheated to 425 degrees, and you bake them for about 25 minutes, and that is all there is to it. I served it with some boxed scalloped potatoes. We always really like that as an easy little side dish. And I also made some pea salad. It's just canned peas that are drained, and you add in mayo, salt, pepper, onion powder, and some hard-boiled eggs. We love that. And this was just a really good meal. I highly, highly recommend these little bacon cheddar meatloaves. They are, again, just amazing, incredible. Can't say enough good things about it. Lastly, I wanted to talk about this beef stroganoff recipe. It is extremely easy to make, but it has been a lifesaver many nights because it's just one of those dinners that my husband and kids really enjoy and they don't seem to ever get tired of it. So I felt it was worthy to include in this video. So I started off by browning up a pound of ground beef. Mine was half frozen. I'm sure we've all been there, but once I worked through all that and got it about halfway cooked through, I went in and seasoned it with some onion and garlic powder, salt, and pepper. If you like actual onion, you can cut one up, cook it in with the ground beef. Once it's fully cooked, you'll want to drain off your grease, and then you'll want to add a packet of brown gravy to a cup of water, mix it together, pour it in the skillet, and then you'll want to dump in 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. If you are not a fan of cream of mushroom soup, you can substitute it with cream of chicken or a cream of celery. And then I just did several dashes of Worcestershire sauce. That always goes really good with pretty much anything with ground beef. So I'm just stirring that until the sauce all looks like it came together. And then over there to the left, I'm boiling a big pot of water, and I'm going to drop in about a half a bag of these egg noodles. So while that's cooking, I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to add about a half a cup of sour cream, and just like with the white chicken enchiladas and what I said with that, the sour cream really does just do something special to the sauce. It just works so good. So I let that simmer on about a medium heat until the pasta is cooked. And then once it is, I drain off all the water and then dump it on into that same skillet. So keep that in mind. You're going to need a big skillet with high sides if you want it to all work out. And then once you get that all tossed together, you just top it with some dried parsley, and that is all there is to it. Super easy. It's basically like a homemade version of Hamburger Helper, but again, we just really, really love it. And we typically like to serve it with peas, but I was out of it this night, so we just did some canned corn and some buttered rolls, and everyone was happy. So that is all I got for y'all in today's video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope it inspired you, and as always, I want to thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in my next one.